Punch it. Hello.
Hello.
Here we go. We're live. Receiving content.
Ah.
There it is. Oh, look, we're on the internet. Huzzah.
We're here.
What is up? Ghost Boo and Coulter, you guys were early.
Yeah. Early birds.
Well done. Welcome.
Getting the work.
Okay, so we're talking about Solo, a Star Wars story today. And we're joined by a very special guest, Photine, right here.
Yes.
You guys know Andi, but this is Photine. Photine's a streamer on Twitch, and there's a link to her in the description if you want to check her out. She plays Legends of the Wizards or something. What is it called?
It's called Heroes of the
There's
Storm.
no
Heroes of
wizard
the
in there.
There's
You
no
just
wizards.
walk
There's no
There are
legends.
wizards, but
I
there's-
can't remember what it's
Legends are
called.
made as you play, but it's called Heroes of the Storm.
Yeah,
So,
Heroes of the Storm.
If you play, check it out.
Yeah, she's awesome. You should check her out. You're glad the stream was a week late so you could see Solo. That worked out perfectly. Yeah, we were supposed to do this last week, and why did
Oh,
it?
that's right.
Why didn't I don't remember why it didn't
Something
happen.
happened.
Something happened.
Anyway.
What's up, Games and Movies? Welcome. Okay, so let's just start by talking about what we thought of the movie. Oh, also Miles is here.
Yes, he's very sleepy.
Very sleepy
Yeah.
Miles.
Who wants to go first? Who wants to give their review?
You go first.
Okay.
Yeah. We want you to go first.
We want you to go first.
Yeah. Well, no hi for me, Ghost Boo? I guess we already said hi. I guess that's fair.
Hello.
Okay, so I will talk about my first experience watching this movie and what I thought of it. First of all, we were like 3 minutes late, so we didn't see the very first
Oh,
couple of
that's
seconds,
right, I
which was kind of a bummer.
forgot.
Yeah.
But we didn't miss it much plot-wise
Yeah,
because of that.
we got in before Han and Qi'ra saw that giant slug lady who doesn't like the sun. So we saw pretty much everything. And I really enjoyed the movie the whole way through. There was a moment in the middle where I was thinking, like, is this really adding anything to this series? Is this like, thank you, Ghost Boo. I was like, is this doing anything that's worth doing in this movie beyond what I've already read in the expanded universe novels as a kid? But then by the time the movie was over, I felt like absolutely yes. Like, but the last third of the movie was my favorite. I loved how everything that Han believed in and everything that he was excited about kind of turned on him and turned against him. Qi'ra betrays him. What's his name? Woody from Cheers betrays him. And then you start to see a little bit of that cynical person come out of Han. And it kind of made me realize that they went overboard with the niceness of Han so that they could kind of make him a little more cynical by the end, which I thought was a really cool and surprising way to go. Obviously this is a spoiler-heavy stream. Darth Maul was awesome. I was so excited to see Darth Maul. It was kind of spoiled for me because, like, someone posted an article on the internet that said, what does Darth Maul being in Solo mean? The day after the movie came out. And I was like, fuck you, you piece of shit. But I didn't know, like, where he was going to show up, and I was still surprised in that moment. I'd kind of forgotten about it in the theater, and I was still kind of shocked when he showed up. And it kind of rights a wrong in the Star Wars series where, like, Darth Maul was just kind of thrown away. Because he's a awesome character. He's the best thing to come out of Episode 1, for sure. Really interesting character that I wanted to know more about, and I thought it was super cool. Not just that he was there, but that Ray Park played him again, the same actor from the Phantom Menace. So that I was really excited by that, and I loved the Han shot first moment at the end when Han shoots... What's Woody's name?
Beckett.
Beckett, yeah.
Yeah.
And I read that Beckett was actually mentioned in Splinter of the Mind's Eye, which is the first expanded universe novel that was ever written, like, years and years ago, which I read. It wasn't very good, but I read it forever ago. It came out before The Empire Strikes Back came out. Yeah, so overall, I really, really liked it. And I feel like there's been some complaints out there that it was a little kind of, like, mediocre and just kind of playing it safe as a movie is concerned. And I didn't necessarily mind that so much because I felt like they were setting up the first of a trilogy, and we're probably not going to get that trilogy at this point because the movie's losing money, but I felt like this was supposed to set up a new thing that we would then get on board for and then go on more adventures with, and I was really into that. Coulter says, Han deserved his own movie to explain his story. Yeah, I agree. I mean, Han is, like, such an interesting character. Why not do this? I thought it was a great idea. I really liked the movie, and I think that maybe the reason that the movie didn't do so well is more because of The Last Jedi than because of this movie itself. I mean, maybe because of, like, the behind-the-scenes stuff that was going on where people were really like the directors were fired. An acting coach was hired to help Alden Ehrenreich.
I mean, Howard reshot like 70% of that movie, right?
Yeah, Ron Howard came in and reshot 70% of the movie. So
Really?
it was definitely kind of a movie by committee and cobbled together based off of a bunch of disparate parts that weren't necessarily intended to be together originally. But I think they pulled it off. Like, I think they really made something worth watching that was super fun and funny and enjoyable. And I really liked it.
Why did you said you think it was ruined by Last Jedi? What do you mean by that?
Fan reaction to Last Jedi was really split, and there was a lot of angry fanboys who boycotted Star Wars after Last Jedi.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, and I don't understand that. I think Last Jedi was a flawed movie, but still good.
Yeah.
And there's this, like, really, really toxic, probably male contingent of Star Wars fans, and they are just, like, really feel, like, entitled to the movie that they want to see. And if they don't get it exactly, they lash out, like, really violently on the internet.
Right.
And there's been, like, huge, like, racism and sexism that plays into that. Like, you know, Finn being black and Rey being female. There's amazing, disgusting outcry on the internet against that. And it's really fucking gross, and I really hate all that stuff. But it was definitely directed really intensely at The Last Jedi, and I think that affected...
So people boycotted this.
Yeah.
This movie was a response to, like, meeting what the fans wanted, like, their expectations. Is that what you're saying, or...?
Well, I think that's true also. What I'm saying is that I think that maybe some of the hardcore fans sat this one out because of Last Jedi.
Right.
Maybe, like, waiting until it's not in the theater anymore or something like that.
Although I will say I think this one continued to support diversity both in gender and in race in a way that was great. I thought pretty great. And one of my favorite characters, and I'm saying she's one of my favorite characters, but I can't remember her name, but she was the, like, competing
Enfys Nest?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the whole movie I was sure that helmet was going to come off and it was going to be some white guy.
I know. I loved that moment.
And
that was so
great.
cool.
I don't know, maybe I'm just naive, but I didn't see any of it. I did not see the plot point where they were actually the good guys coming at all.
Yeah, where that was actually, like, the seeds of the rebellion.
Yeah.
Of, like, the Rebel Alliance. I thought
yeah,
that was
and I think
cool.
it really played with something that I think is a kind of cornerstone of Star Wars, which is, like, the way that we view history is really, whoever the good guy is based on your point of view in some ways.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it can change depending on, you know, I mean, like, with the character of Darth Vader, like, you know, you can't always rely that someone will stay, you know, on the positive side of the Force, and you know, like, I don't know, it's interesting, and I think there could have been a version of this movie if it was actual history. There could be a version where you never knew that those were the good guys, you know, and, like, the history could be told in a way that those were the bad guys, and I think a lot of our history books are written in a similar way. It just kind of made me think about you know,
like, the whole, we're dealing with all this, like, fake news in the media and stuff, and, like, stories being reported in a way that benefits one person but doesn't necessarily tell the whole truth. And this movie played with that a lot. I mean, the idea
this is, like, pre the lines being drawn very clearly between, like, there's the rebellion, there's the bad guys. This is pre all of that. So, like, you see the Empire, like, positioning itself as a good guy in certain ways.
Right.
But, like, you know, still funded by this gangster organization.
Yes. Absolutely. That's so true.
So it is interesting because it is kind of like the Wild West, like, pre, like, who's good, who's bad.
Yes.
You're trying to figure it out during this movie.
Absolutely. I also, this is interesting. Ghost Boo is saying the reason that they didn't like The Last Jedi is the plot holes.
No, that was a huge problem. I mean, that was a huge... I'm never to deny that. AOA is saying something similar. Star Wars was fine art before The Last Jedi. That's fascinating. Even though there was just as much bad as good stuff in Star Wars. I think... I know what you're saying. Like, the original series, the original trilogy, to me, each movie feels like a tone poem. Like, very fine art. Like, George Lucas had this incredible vision to make it happen. I feel like he tried to do that again with the prequels and just completely missed the mark, and I think those movies are trash. But because of that, my standards for the new Star Wars that come out are, please be better than the prequels. Like, please don't embarrass me.
Right.
And I don't feel embarrassed by The Last Jedi, and I know that a lot of fans do, the plot holes are a huge problem, and there's like weird moments where the story kind of turns in directions that were kind of like unexpected because they weren't set up and don't make sense. Hey, Stitch Spin.
I kind of know that you see that those two films kind of have contradicting goals. Because, like, at the end of Last Jedi, it's, like, clearly a look towards the future and letting go of the past.
Right.
Because it's, like, you know, releasing the Force and you know, anybody can have the Force, whatever. And then, but the whole, you know, Solo is all about, like, satisfying the past, like, looking to the past, filling those holes in, which is interesting. Because it seems like they do have contradicting goals.
And I think that Rogue One also has that looking to the past and filling in the past thing going on. Like the Star Wars stories outside of the main like continuity of, you know, episodic Star Wars are very much, you know, fan service. Like there are entire movies of fan service. And we just watched Rogue One. Andy hadn't seen it before.
I really liked Rogue One.
Oh my god, it's amazing.
Yeah, it was
we watched it after seeing Solo, and it is inarguably a better movie than Solo. It is like
I think so.
I think very, very, very high up there on the list of best Star Wars movies.
It was fantastic. And you know what was interesting too is watching it, and for anybody that is avoiding Infinity War spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers for Infinity, spoilers for Rogue One, spoilers for Solo. Get out of here now.
But this isn't a huge spoiler because I think you will have probably heard this major plot point. But it was interesting watching it but if you don't want any, then stop listening. But it was interesting watching it in tandem with that movie because both movies sort of killed everybody. That you care about. They did. You know, and in for me at least in Infinity War, it was in a way that just didn't feel real or pay off, and in Rogue One it felt very real.
Yeah, totally. The reason I showed Andy Rogue One, besides just like it was on our list of things to see, I'm trying to show her all my favorite sci-fi. Rogue One was on my list right after Infinity War because I felt like it was an example of a movie where you could kill all of the main characters and have it resonate, and like you're just gutted at the end of Rogue One, you know?
Yeah.
Gutted because they really set up character beautifully, and they develop story beautifully, and then they kill everybody, and it's just like,
but you
it's
also
insane.
It is, but you also
it feels
know
right.
That's the way it had
to be that way. It's beautiful and brilliant, and I adore that movie.
That is something that I would say about Solo. Like, you take Rogue One; these are characters that we don't have like 40 years of history, 40 plus years of history with, and like I cared more about them than I did about Han Solo and Solo, which is
that's so true.
Yeah, because Rogue One really followed the old formula of putting disparate people together and making them feel like family within the first like hour of the movie. You know, they all kind of disagree for a while, but by the time you get back to Yavin 4 and they're going to go off to Scarif, the Rogue One crew is a family. You know, like they've really come together, and you feel this intense bond towards them because of that.
Yes.
And then when shit starts to go south, it's like, it's just so intense, you know? It's so intense.
And they do such a beautiful job of paying tribute to each person's loss.
Totally.
And I feel like in
Infinity
War, it just all happened massively at once. And you weren't really soaking in their role that they played and why their loss was important and all this stuff, you know? And it didn't seem like they were doing it for each other. Well, they weren't, because it was a totally different scenario, too. But also, very quickly, I just want to say, where is that comment? Oh, does it say AOA?
Yeah.
AOA, I actually, this is so interesting. I learned recently, well, not that recently, but anyway, I learned that there used to be a form of punctuation that implied sarcasm.
Oh.
So you would like say a sentence and then you would finish it with a punctuation that says this is meant sarcastically.
Oh. Yeah. Is that the squiggly line?
It's like there's a weird, I can't remember what it looks like, but it almost looks like, I feel like I remember it looking like a question mark kind of, but not quite.
Yeah, it's like Kappa, basically.
Yeah, and I'm like, why didn't that last? We need that.
Yeah, we do need that.
It would be so helpful, you know?
There's no Kappa on YouTube.
Yeah, totally. Sorry, that's totally unrelated, but I just had to say it.
I think the squiggle,
nice. The squiggle, all right. We're adopting the squiggle.
Okay, yeah, I like it. I like it.
So what did you two think about Solo?
Ooh, I mean, I'm coming at this not from like a deep knowledge Star Wars fan, but just somebody who really enjoys like big blockbuster, big budget films. Like I will watch any of those.
You're like really deep into like film and cinema culture. Like you used to work at the Museum of Pop Culture.
I used to work at the Museum of Pop Culture. Like, I love pop culture.
Patrick.
I love sci-fi. So, you know, like, I'm, like, predisposed to, like, be this movie's biggest fan. And I did think it was entertaining, but I think it didn't have the same magic for me as previous Star Wars films have had. So, I was definitely entertained, and I do agree that the latter half of the film was much stronger. Once you started going, once you had, like, the Kessel Run to kind of, like, you know, structure the film around, I was like, okay, like, I'm into this. But until then, it kind of felt a little bit like it was struggling to find that, like, momentum, maybe.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I felt a little bit of a lack of momentum in the first half. And for me, it felt a little bit like they were cobbling things together to try to get to where they decided the movie should go, because it wasn't where it was originally going to go.
Right.
Just knowing...
And yeah, maybe that's, like, just from having to switch directors and, you know, everything that you talked about earlier, so.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, you know, and I, like, similarly... So I just... Most of you guys... What?
Culture. Why does it look like Andy's looking at me?
That's funny.
I am culture. I can see you now. So I, as a lot of you know, actually, or maybe not, but I didn't really watch Star Wars growing up, and I was really introduced to it when I met Jesse. For the most part, I had seen Force Awakens, and I had seen the first one, but like on a bus somewhere and very peripherally. So then I've seen all of them now, and so I've fallen in love with the first 3 episodes, obviously, and then really didn't like the prequels, but that tends to be a typical response. But because I didn't grow up with them, my attachment to, like, the history of Star Wars and that side of it, where, like, this is answering some questions, and it wasn't as big of a thing for me, and yet I still felt really gratified by it for some reason. So I think that was really successful. And I think it was successful being just a movie on its own in terms of following the plot and the characters, even if you didn't have that attachment to the history.
Yeah.
But I will say, I know, like, one of the major things was, what's her name? Qi'ra? No.
Qi'ra, yeah.
Yeah. So this is actually more of a question than an opinion, but so everyone's talking about how Qi'ra turned dark, or we know that... What's that story, and how did we have a hint into that? Have we heard the name Qi'ra before? Like,
no,
for some reason I don't remember that, if we did.
Just finding out that she's working for Darth Maul, and Darth Maul being a Dark Lord of the Sith.
Okay.
Like, and she kept saying throughout the movie, like, you don't understand everything, and there's something else going on here.
Right.
So, been kind of just wondering the whole movie, what is it that Kira's involved in? And then finding out that it's Darth Maul at the end, you know?
Yeah, I see. Okay.
Well, they kept intimating, like, you don't know the things she's done, and we still don't know what she's done.
Yeah.
So.
But we do know that, I took that to mean that the dark side has a hold on her.
Yeah.
If Darth Maul has a hold on her, then so does the dark side.
I see. Okay, and then that is also alluding to if they continued to make these movies, we might see the evolution of that. And
I actually read that they reshot the Darth Maul thing to add the lightsaber turning on to make it super clear who he was. Because they were worried that, like, test audiences didn't quite pick up on it. They wanted everyone to know, like, this is a Dark Lord of the Sith. You know, this is a bad Jedi.
I did need the reminder because I didn't know his story very well, and so I kind of had to be like, it feels familiar. I know this is a callback that I should know.
Yeah, he was chopped in half at the end of Phantom Menace, and it was kind of assumed that he was dead. Yeah. But then he showed up in the Clone Wars cartoons, which are canon, so he has officially been alive in the canon for a while. But for someone like me who, you know, for me, the movies are core canon. And everything else is kind of peripheral. Like, I've read some of the canon comic books, and they weren't that good, and I don't need to include that in my own personal canon, you know? So the movies for me are core canon. Seeing Darth Maul on screen in a core canon film, to me, like, officially really brings him back. So, did he shred people?
I'm sure he shredded
I'm sure he shredded a lot of people. He's a people shredder, that Maul. And then just getting a hint of that backstory was so cool that like something with Qi'ra and Maul had been going on for a while probably. Yeah. And I always felt like Qi'ra had some weird relationship with Dryden Voss, where like he trusted her, she obviously didn't trust him. She wanted to kill him. She did kill him, right? Who killed Dryden Voss?
Yeah, she killed
It was
him.
her, yeah. And just, it seems like maybe Maul planted her there, because Maul is now running a crime syndicate. Like, he's running Crimson Dawn, right?
Yeah.
Why did the lieutenant look like Hitler? Which one was that?
I don't remember.
The lieutenant.
I don't remember.
I don't remember either.
That mustache, man. Never a good fashion choice.
Nope.
Never.
You can't go right with that.
Yeah. So, and yeah, all that stuff just made me really want to see more. And I felt like as a first movie in a trilogy, this worked better than it did as a standalone movie.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it might end up being a standalone movie.
Yeah. I agree with that. Maybe another thing I'd
You need laser sword fights in your Star Wars, not just lighting one up. I was thinking about that. Like, they only show a lightsaber for one moment in the movie.
Yeah, that's
true.
Yeah, that's really true.
But the same in Rogue One, we only see a lightsaber at the end, but it was so badass. So badass. Darth Vader cutting down that hallway. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I really enjoyed.
Forgot about that scene.
So good.
It's so
fucking
intense.
good.
Oh yeah! Oh my god, that's right. Oh.
Yeah.
And you know, I will say, like, there is one link between this movie and then having seen Rogue One right after. Both movies, I think, made me the most aware that it was a war.
Right.
I know Star Wars, it's obviously in the name. There's a lot of fighting that happens, but for some reason, because it's set in space and there's, you know, I don't know, the way that stormtroopers look, I didn't equate it with, like, modern day or our current day warfare.
Yeah.
And there's that scene where he's like he gets behind the doors and the recruitment video is up, and that looked so much like a 1950s like
propaganda,
you know, army recruitment.
Totally.
And then you know when he's
on the ground,
you know,
the mud trooper scene.
That's not an image I'm used to seeing in Star Wars. And in Rogue One there was a lot of warfare feeling moments as well, and so that was sort of something I actually appreciated, because it kind of gave me context to this truly is a war, you know, in the way that we think of war. And like lives are being lost. Sometimes I've talked about this, like those stormtrooper costumes also kind of make you dehumanize them a little bit.
For sure.
And you forget that like so many people are dying in those costumes, you know? And so it was just interesting to see that aspect of it. And I also very much enjoyed the train scene. I thought that was kind of interesting to watch.
The heist.
Yeah. I actually enjoyed watching that. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And that like how fragile that material is, and they did a good job of maintaining tension throughout it. I think a lot of times you can go into that type of scene and everyone's, well, they're not going to be successful. Like, we know this. But at the same time, there was moments where I was like, well, maybe they'll pull it off, you know, which I think is actually very hard to maintain the audience disbelief throughout a scene like that.
Yeah. That propaganda scene you were talking about in Solo, they were playing music that was almost the Imperial March. It was like almost the dun 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 dum ba-dum bum ba-dum, but it was like a little more major sounding. And that to me seems so ridiculous. Like, how could the in-world music be so similar to the audience music? And that kind of like broke my disbelief for a second. Not a big deal though.
ALA says most of the B grade is childish Gambino. Donald Glover, did you have an issue with Donald Glover's performance? Are
you saying that he's the reason it got such a high grade, or he was bringing it down? What do you think?
Yeah.
What did we think of Lando?
Yeah.
I'm highly biased.
That's right.
As a Donald Glover fan, I loved him.
Oh, AOA says he was great.
He was great. Okay,
yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Gene has a.
Oh well, you probably can't see it.
Well, let's try.
Let's try. Why not?
Try. Okay, let me see. I got it queued up. As you can. Okay, I'm gonna try to show it.
Yeah, we're like a couple seconds behind. There we go.
As you can see.
Yeah.
Yes. I have met him some years ago.
Yeah.
He touched my shoulder. It was great. He was here for a show, and it was really fun. But I thought he did great with the character. Like, he took a character that was pretty... I mean, he's pretty iconic, right? Like,
absolutely.
His swagger, and I believed it, so...
Yeah. Yeah, I really liked him a lot. He had a weird accent that he was slipping in and out of that was really bothering me. Like... He would like shape words in a strange way every once in a while. I'm like, what is that? I don't know what that is. And that was very distracting to me. But I loved the kind of like metrosexual. Well, I guess like Lando has been announced as being pansexual, like including robots.
Including robots.
Yeah, like the writers of the movie came out and said that in their minds he's always been, you know, pansexual. So
he didn't say that yet. He was still working on that line. So this was in 2012.
Yeah, and I love that he was kind of like petulant a little bit, and he was like recording his little Instagram story thing. I thought that was really funny.
Oh, for sure, vain in a really great way.
Totally. He had so many capes. I liked a lot what they did with his character. I thought it really tracked with the man that he becomes later.
Totally.
And I felt the same way about Han Solo, but they kind of went in opposite directions, where Lando was a little more morose when he was younger, and he's seen some success by the time he's running Cloud City, so he's changed a little bit. And Han is like a little more optimistic when he's younger, and then, you know, he sees so much shit in his life that he turns into a grumpy old man.
Yeah, that's interesting. I thought also just like the simplicity of the gambling aspect. Now, is that character, you know, that like he's a card player, and that he has that. I mean, is that something that we've associated with that character before?
Yeah, and I don't remember specifically what was mentioned in Empire Strikes Back, but I know that it has been considered canon for a really long time that Han won the Falcon from Lando in a sabacc game.
Miles is the best of being in the stream. Fair enough. I mean, who could compete with Miles?
He's just chilling. Yeah, and I know that was in the books, but I don't remember what was mentioned. I know he says, like, are you taking care of my ship? And he's like, your ship? I won her fair and square, or something like that.
Right.
So it is mentioned in Empire, but I don't know if they mentioned a card game specifically. But that's always been what I knew it was, and I don't remember where I learned that for the first time.
Yeah.
But I did like that they did make that official canon now. You know, like they put the sabacc game in the movie, so we get to see it.
And the thing with the sleeve, I just thought is so hilarious at the end. Like that was a really great moment, I thought.
Yeah.
When he didn't have it anymore. And,
yeah.
I mean, it was just, and I thought Donald Glover just like had all the swagger he needed, but also I think also pulled through with the, you know, like when and I loved the bot L7 or L3 or
L3, yeah. L3 was awesome.
Like and his relationship with that robot. I mean, like I was truly touched when he was like running with the half body, and like I was like, oh my god, you know?
It was like his greatest moment of heroicness.
Yes.
What's the word? Heroism in that movie was saving his robot friend. So I really like that.
Totally, absolutely.
Chewie is totally awesome. I want to come back to Chewie in a second. But like talking about L3, how did you guys feel about putting L3's intelligence into the Falcon?
Loved it.
I liked that.
I liked it a lot. The thing that's a little disturbing is that like no one in the future talks to the ship as if it is a person with an intelligence.
That's true.
And but I feel like maybe L3 as a sentient robot died, and it was only her memory banks that were kept in the computer. But you know, in Empire, C-3PO is talking to the ship. He's like, it has the most peculiar dialect, and that's like because of L3.
Yeah.
So we now understand why C-3PO can talk to the ship, and it has a dialect, and it has like a personality a little bit, like it coming from L3.
That's amazing.
That's great.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. I like
that.
That's the kind of retconning that I like. Something where they explain something that never really quite made sense. Like Han Solo's last name, you know? I actually really liked that moment. He said, like, what's your last name? Like, who are your people? He doesn't have any people, so he's... I don't know about that. You didn't like that? What did you think of it?
I don't know. I didn't know. I guess, like, whatever story they were going to come up with was not going to be satisfactory. I didn't realize that it wouldn't be his name. It would just be that he picked up.
Yeah.
I don't know. I felt on the fence about it. I don't know how to feel about it.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought that was kind of bold to start the movie off by telling us that, like, Han Solo's last name is not what we always thought it was. I thought that was cool.
Yeah. That's interesting.
It is funny, though, for, like, Solo, like, he's never really alone in that, you know? Like, there's never a moment where he's really operating as a lone agent.
Right.
Like,
especially once he meets Chewbacca.
Right.
Yeah, okay, so coming back to Chewie, I think that my favorite part of the movie was the relationship between Han and Chewie, which I thought that they really nailed. Like, that relationship felt totally right to me. I like how they met. I liked... You know, finally hearing Han speak Wookiee was cool because he never does again. We never hear Harrison Ford speak Wookiee, but it's obvious that he understands it.
Yeah.
And it was cool how they set it up that, like, they each understand each other's language and they're just speaking their own because it's more comfortable for them.
Right.
So that answered a question that I'd had for a long time.
Right.
Yeah.
And what's the guy's name? Like, Janus something, who plays Chewie. He's just doing such a good job. He's doing, like, great. He shared Chewie duties with Peter Mayhew in Force Awakens, but Peter Mayhew has some knee problems, the guy who originally played Chewie, so he wasn't even in The Last Jedi. It was just all this Janus guy. Janos, I don't remember how to pronounce his name. But he's actually really, I've seen him in some interviews too, and he's a really cool guy. He takes being Chewie so seriously. He, like, studied Chewbacca to make sure he had all, like, the head motions and everything down. And the way that he, like, puts his hands on his hips, and he's really doing it right. I mean, he's really got the character.
And I agree with Coulter that, like, I had no idea that would be the Chewie reveal, so I was really pleased when that was the reveal they chose.
I was totally like, I was pretty sure it was going to be Chewie.
No.
Like, the moment he's like, there's a beast down there, I'm like, oh my god, it's going to be Chewbacca. It's going to be awesome.
Wow. I also, sorry to bring it back, but I also, Joey, the Droid Rebellion was amazing.
Yeah, the Droid Rebellion was good. I liked it a lot.
I thought that was a fun scene.
Yeah, AOA, all those years in the Falcon up to New Hope, Chewie never told Han about Chewie's Jedi buddy, Yoda. I hated that. Putting Chewie into Revenge of the Sith was ridiculous. It was so silly. Like, it really didn't need to be there. Like, when they're on Kashyyyk and they're fighting the droids, and then the droids are like, what are they called? The clones are, like, fighting the Separatist army, and then the Order 66 happens, and they all, like, turn on everyone, and Chewie helps save Yoda's life. I really could have done without that, because it does create that weird plot hole. You know, like, Chewie knowing Yoda feels wrong. Yeah. For some reason. Because it, like, never came up again.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying about that.
But, like, L3 being in the ship feels good. Like, that feels like it makes sense.
Right.
It was really touching that, like, he also, you know, he helped his own people, but ultimately he picked Han over his own tribe.
Yeah.
It's just a really sweet and nice moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, which reminds me, they'd never talked about the life debt in this movie. In A New Hope, you know, Han says that Chewie owes him a life debt, and that's why they hang together. That's why they roll together, is because, like, Chewie owes Han a life debt. But they're also obviously very close friends. And I actually loved that they didn't bring it up in this movie, and that just kind of focus on their friendship, because Han does, like, save Chewie, you know, from that prison. Andi is still staring into your soul. It's personal, too. But he does save Chewie, and that could be the moment with the life debt. Oh, Utopian. Thanks, man. Yeah. Good to see you. Yeah, so I liked that a lot, actually. I thought that was the right call. I think that the whole idea of one character owing another character a life debt when they are actually friends. You meant to say exit. Oh. Still cool you said hi. Thank you. I thought it was the right call to just kind of not talk about that. And there is that moment where Chewie almost goes with his people, and doesn't. And I wondered, is that because of his life debt? You know, does he have a life debt already that he just hasn't talked to Han about?
I see.
Maybe, I don't know. Could be.
So we have a question from Ghost, or was it Ghost Blew Up There? I think it was. About, did we buy the actor?
Oh, right. Yeah, what do you guys think? Did we buy Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo?
It's hard to say, because I would imagine that, like, their ideas that a bunch of other things have happened that turned him into the man we see later.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I wasn't like, I can't believe this at all, but it wasn't like, oh yeah, that's a dead ringer. You know? Yeah,
I feel the same way. I mean, I'm glad that he didn't try to do, like, a carbon copy you know, Harrison Ford, because nobody can do that as Han Solo. But yeah, there was just it seems like the leap from who he is in this movie to who he becomes is still pretty great. You know, it's still like a pretty big leap to me. And there was some moments, you know, and he's still kind of an optimist and a little bit naive, that I was like, he is kind of like Luke from the, and like maybe that's why like when we get to those movies,
he kind of
he's like so annoyed by he tolerates Luke but also hates him because like he does see so much of himself in it. So I thought it was interesting that maybe they were trying to kind of create that loop that like, you know, Han Solo at one point was very Luke-like in his intentions, because he does. He kind of throws himself into things. He wants to like save the girl. He's not really thinking about all the consequences.
Yeah, it made it feel more like Han becoming the good guy by the end of, you know, the original trilogy, because he kind of goes through this arc of being like a gray character towards more of just a purely good character.
Yeah.
Now it feels more like he's remembering who he used to be versus becoming someone new.
Right. Yeah.
Which is a really different take on the character. And I kind of liked that because I felt like it's the only thing they could have done that would have surprised me.
Right.
But it's also surprising because it doesn't match with how I've always imagined that character, you know? Like growing up like as a smuggler, as a criminal, and then but having a heart of gold, and then kind of like letting that, you know, take over.
Yeah.
It's funny because a splinter in my finger.
Oh, no.
Yikes. What is that from?
I don't know.
I think it's my facial hair.
Oh God.
I think it is too.
I think I got a splinter from my own facial hair. It's very sharp.
It happens to me all the time.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. But what do you guys think? Is that a
be
good thing to do with the character?
I mean, I think it was, given their options, I think whatever they did was not going to be satisfactory, you know? So I think from the options they had, that was probably the best one.
Yeah. I actually really liked him as Han Solo, and I totally bought it. I actually bought into it pretty early on in the movie and stayed into it pretty much the whole time. There were a couple of moments where he made a face or a mannerism or something that really reminded me of Han Solo. So and because they kind of started him in a different place than I expected and brought him closer to the character I expected by the end, it really worked for me. It felt like it could be a seamless transition, because this is like 10 years before A New Hope. You know, they haven't been super clear on the timing, but it seemed like he was in his early 20s in this movie, and then he was probably in his early 30s in A New Hope. So you don't like the way how Han turned out in the sequels, like in the Force Awakens. Yeah, that also surprised me that he kind of reverted back to being a loner, just him and Chewie, you know, like he became the family man, but that went totally wrong, so he just left.
Yeah.
Yeah, that surprised me also, but it also kind of felt like it could work and be in character. And I don't know, I liked it. It was sad and I liked it. I felt that way about everything they've done with the legacy characters and the new movies. It's like it's all been sad, but I kind of liked it.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes what happens to your heroes isn't what you'd expect.
Totally. Right, and that there's not always just like this perfect wrap up of like, we all survived and now great, everything's good, you know. And I think actually a lot of times when you think about how much they had to sacrifice to get through what they got through, it makes sense that they would be
definitely damaged. A normal person going through that situation would have trouble adjusting too.
Oh, totally.
Right.
So it makes sense that later on in life he cannot be in the relationship that he would like to be, or like, you know, this unit that's more functional.
Yeah, totally. Hey Alvin, what's up, man?
Hi.
Culture's lost.
Something that I was wondering if I had just missed because I missed the first few minutes of the movie, but so Han goes off to train to be a pilot, right? When he gets
in the Empire.
Empire. Was there anything leading up to that he already had an interest in that? Because that chase scene, he already knew how to fly pretty well. He was always already doing kind of risky things. Was there any what? I guess my question is, what did we miss?
Well, he is forced to sign up for the Empire because he's trying to escape, and they're about to get him. So he just kind of gets into that line because it's going to fast track him to
get off planet.
Planet.
Yeah.
So it's like a split-second moment that he decides this. It wasn't really his plan.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. That's what I was assuming. But we did miss the first 2 minutes.
Yeah. What happened in the first 2 minutes?
I hear there was an opening shot of Corellia, and there was some sort of
there was a
words
chase
or something that explained the background, what was happening. We saw the chase. We got there by then.
Okay.
We entered right as they were meeting that slime woman.
Yeah.
And then they like broke the thing and the sunlight came in.
I see. Man, you know, I watched it on opening night, so now I can't
remember. It's hard. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Yeah, but they alluded to him being like kicked out of the flight school or something. But he was still a mud trooper.
Yeah.
So and I know that there was actually something they cut out of him like being in flight school.
They fast forwarded through the whole part where he's actually learning to be a pilot.
And I would have loved to have seen a little bit of that. But I mean, I understand they got to cut stuff out, and maybe we'll see it eventually on the DVD or something. So there's been a lot of talk about like these like Star Wars stories and whether or not we need them, you know? And I feel like Rogue One definitely argued for its own existence, and I'm not sure that Solo did. And now they're talking about making Obi-Wan movies.
Ooh.
A Boba Fett movie has been announced. Mm-hmm. So how many types of troopers are there? So many. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Like, do you like having these Star Wars stories outside of the main like saga, or like what type of? And if so, like, what would you want there to be?
Yeah.
I guess I thought the original intention behind them was to have more freedom in the storyline and how to approach it and shape it than you would get with the direct sequels. Which I thought Rogue One did very well with. That was the first one.
Right.
So I guess I don't know exactly. I mean, I will watch them all. I enjoy them all. But if the intention, I don't know what the intention is either. I would say I'm in that camp.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Right now they've announced that Rian Johnson, who directed Last Jedi, is going to make a separate trilogy in a different place in the Star Wars universe. No one knows anything about it. And the creators of Game of Thrones are going to make a trilogy, and we don't know anything about that either. They're just like announcing so much stuff, and then like some of it gets canceled, and they're just kind of seeing what sticks, I guess. But like the fan outcry is getting so loud, and like I feel like they're now being put in this kind of impossible position where they're kind of fucked no matter what they do or don't make, which is so frustrating because I like what they're making and I want them to keep doing it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I agree with that. I think a lot of the I feel like a lot of the feelings around not wanting them to continue to make things is the fear that it's somehow going to tarnish people's ideas or feelings already about the movie, and that it's just going to ruin the whole thing, because I think a lot of people are attached to how the originals make them feel. And I think that I have a different perspective on that because, like I said, I didn't grow up with them. So my attachment to that is a little less strong than it might have been if that was the case.
Yeah.
And also, I kind of felt like the prequels already kind of did that. They did all the damage that could be done in some ways.
I agree 100%.
You know, so I'm not really fearful about anything else ruining that.
I think it's kind of like with the Marvel movies, there's so many.
Yeah.
Some of them are better than others, but they know that when they put one out, we're all gonna go pay to see it. So I think the problem is that more and more you feel like, is this advancing the Star Wars universe, or is it just a money grab?
Yeah.
You know that everybody's gonna come pay to see this film.
Yeah, and I think it's Star Wars, the heart of it for me, which I just saw this article about this, I totally agreed. And the reason people are getting so upset is that there are people out there. It was actually a quote from Rian Johnson that I read. He's like, there are a lot of people out there like me who think that there is a force that binds the universe together. They actually believe in it. I kind of believe in this shit too. There's something that rings true about the force. So it makes it all a little bit more precious because it becomes a worldview. And I don't hold on to it tightly at all, so I don't feel like I get offended when they do something different with it. But also, everything they've done different with it, I've liked. I mean, I liked The Last Jedi's, deconstruction of the Force to say the Force doesn't belong to the Jedi. I thought that was awesome. I really liked that. And I loved that The Last Jedi said, we're going to kind of kill the past and move forward with this franchise in a new and different way. And I thought that was great. So all this stuff, I'm pretty flexible with where they go with it, and I really liked what they've decided to do. I want an episode 9 that is colorful and bright and bizarre and exciting and new and fresh, and maybe put in some I don't know, like for some reason I want like cyberpunk Jedi. I want them to take the Jedi that felt old and make them feel new and fresh. Like, because the Jedi Order is gone, they can do whatever they want with it. And I would be fascinated to see a new series of movies with a new Jedi Order that they can kind of create whatever they want with. I think that'd be so cool. You would dig an Obi-Wan movie, but not begging for it, and people wanting poor Kathleen Kennedy to step down. I think Kathleen Kennedy is the reason why the movies have been as good as they have been. I think that her job is like insanely difficult, and she's hiring all these different directors to try to bring something to life, and then she's firing people when they're not succeeding and trying to keep things closer to something that's going to work for as many fans as possible. I think she's doing a good job. I mean, it sounds like firing the original directors to Solo was a good idea, because they were not really shooting the script. They were doing a lot of improv, and they were not covering the shots with as many shots as the editors needed, so they just weren't getting what they needed to make the movie that Kathleen Kennedy and the producers and writers wanted to make. They were kind of like forcing them to make the movie that the directors wanted to make, which isn't really fair. It's not what they were hired to do, so they got fired. I mean, I think that's fair. And I know that in Rogue One, I think it was directed by Gareth Edwards, and they brought someone else in at the end to kind of clean up the production. He added in the Vader stuff at the end, and they made a lot of changes to kind of make the movie better. And like the director's like, you were right, this was better. Like, we were having a little bit of trouble, you helped us bring it home. And that movie, I think, really stands the test of time. And I think, I mean, it's only been a couple of years, but rewatching it for the first time in a while, I was really impressed by how much it stood up. Rian Johnson was the problem for you? Yeah, I feel that a little bit. I think that Rian Johnson tried a little too hard to be like, this is what you think Star Wars is? It's not. It's this. And there was a little too much of that in The Last Jedi. Because the end of the movie kind of ends with like, yeah, no, I was wrong. Star Wars is what you thought it was all along, you know?
Right.
Yeah, like Luke is like, I will not be the last Jedi. He totally goes back on what he's been saying the whole time.
Yeah.
And it makes you question, like, did he tell Rey what he told her because it was true, or because he was trying to push her to do what she needed to do, much in the way that Obi-Wan lied to Luke over and over to get him where he needed to be. And that's kind of fucked up, and maybe the Jedi dying is okay if they're going to be a little more open and honest with each other in the future when Rey starts this new version of the Jedi. I don't know. Yeah. But you know what I want to see is an Ewok movie. I want to see, like, Ewok Wars, where it's like a gritty, serious war movie with Ewoks. That's what I want to see. I think that would be awesome. Where there's maybe like a couple of like people or alien characters on Endor or something, and like there's this war machine of Endor that's run by the Ewoks. I want that. I think that would be awesome.
That'd be the cutest war ever.
It would be a pretty cute war. Yeah, I would. Maybe this is a really unpopular opinion, but I would totally see a Yoda movie. Like, I'm
that's been talked about.
I would want to see a Yoda movie.
Like, it could be
Yoda.
really awful and weird, but it could also be kind of amazing. Just sort of depends.
Yeah, I mean, he's 900 years old. Like, where would you put that? Like,
right.
What? I mean, we've seen a lot of Yoda in the prequels. So there's a couple of options. There's young Yoda, like Yoda coming up into the Jedi Order.
Yeah.
There is Yoda in the Dark Times, you know, the fallen Jedi Order era between episodes 3 and 4. Like, what was Yoda up to on Dagobah? That movie would probably be boring. It's probably just him chilling on Dagobah.
If they could find a young millennial to play a young Yoda, then maybe we would have.
Oh my god. Yeah, maybe when Yoda was younger, he was like the size of a human, and he's just shrunk.
Really,
and it's like Justin Bieber playing young Yoda, and he's just like in a bodysuit. That would be awesome.
Oh my god, that's incredible. And also, like, idea. You know, I feel like, am I right about this? Well, now I'm right about this, because for the most part, we've seen multiple characters of, like, I guess now, because we've seen other Wookiees, there's no alien character we haven't, well, no, that's not really true. Like, it's so interesting in Star Wars, you know, they introduce these alien characters, but you don't see a lot of other aliens that look like them a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's and sometimes, like, they just create all new alien species for every movie and you don't see repeats.
Right.
Which feels weird.
Which makes me wonder, like, is Yoda one of a type of alien? Like, you know, it just, like, in that movie, would you have multiple characters who looked like Yoda,
right.
like Yoda's family?
I don't even remember his species.
I don't know.
But there is a creature in episode 1 that looks a little like Yoda but is pink. Or like flesh colored. I think a Jedi actually on the Jedi Council, and I had wondered, like, is that another type of Yoda? I don't know. Yeah, do they have like different like colored, you know, genus of species on his planet?
Well, and
I don't know.
I think something that would be interesting, and I don't know how this fits into Star Wars history and whatever, but like people discovering the Force for the very first time.
Oh, shit.
Like
oh my god, what a great idea. Like the foundation of the Jedi Order movie.
And writing the books.
Oh,
like,
fuck yeah.
It could be so interesting.
That's a great idea, because someone mentioned Old Republic era, which is a great idea also, but the Old Republic, like the Jedi Order is still like, I think thousands of years old in the Old Republic. So maybe like a movie on Ahch-To, like where Luke and Rey were in The Last Jedi, where they discover the Force.
Yeah.
That would be pretty badass.
That's a great idea. I think that the Force is what I care about the most in Star Wars.
Yeah,
and, like, that's my favorite thing about it.
I agree.
And seeing a movie about the Force would be so cool.
Yeah, and then also discovering the dark side of it for the very first time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
you know, like,
shit,
It could be so interesting.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Totally yes.
It's a great idea.
Call the Force!
Yeah. Does anyone have Kathleen Kennedy's phone number?
She's got.
That is a brilliant idea. Oh, I love that idea. I would so watch that movie.
Well, if they don't make it, we will. Don't worry, guys.
Yeah, the Force is totally what defines Star Wars.
Yeah,
that's what I loved about Rogue One, is that you had Chirrut Imwe, this character who is not a Jedi but has the Force. You know, he would be a Jedi if it weren't for Order 66. Like, he obviously has the Force, but the Jedi Order has been demolished and it's dangerous to be a Jedi. So he's just kind of using the Force to help him. And he's like a guardian of the Wills, so he's guarding the ancient Jedi Order, but he's not actually a Jedi. I want a Guardian of the Wills movie with Baze and Chirrut. Those two same guys, I want more of them. And I want them to be in love with each other and married. I want that.
Yeah, why not?
I felt like they were hinting at that in Rogue One, but didn't quite cross that line.
Yeah.
There was tension, though.
I felt it. I felt it. I don't mind what he was trying to do with the movie, but you have to make everything make sense. Yeah, so I totally agree. Finn and Rose, the whole subplot with Finn and Rose made no sense. Like, the whole Casino Planet thing could have been cut out of the movie. It didn't do anything for the plot. The whole slow chase, Poe's rebellion, all that was dumb. But sorry to interrupt.
No, I'm interrupting you.
But I have to say that the final confrontation between Kylo Ren and Luke was so good that it made me forgive a lot of the movie's sins, because I was just in love with what happened at the end.
Yeah, although I did see a comment way back that someone was like, Luke died on a rock. Like, and that I think that comment, but if you're still watching, tell me if I'm wrong, but the vibe I got from that comment was like, that wasn't satisfying for you. But for me, I felt like it really was. Like,
totally, for me too.
The battle, he did all with his mind, which is the whole point of using the Force. And the fact that he did that, and then when he died, it was almost like his choice, or not choice, but he wasn't defeated by something. It was that it was his time, and he knew it.
I took that as like, he put himself so deep into the Force to do that heroic feat that he lost his body.
He had to join the Force.
He joined. Yeah, I love that. I love that moment. I didn't see it coming, which is weird. But when he faded away, I was like, Luke, no. It really surprised me. Mushroom, welcome. Yeah, this is Photine. She's a streamer. You should check her out on Twitch. Yeah. Her link is in the description. Yeah, welcome, Mushroom. Good to see you.
Hello.
Yeah, so I love Luke dying on that rock. I thought that was super cool.
Yeah, I liked it too. A lot. But what were you saying before that? Sorry.
Guardian of the Wills movie?
Oh, yeah, and then there was something else you said that.
I was talking about The Last Jedi and how what it did right kind of made up for what it did wrong.
That's right. Yeah, I think the other thing that I would love new Star Wars movies to do I don't know if I think they did it in this movie. But I would love there to be a lot of imagination.
Yes.
And a lot of creativity, because I think there are now, and it's tough because the capabilities we have now with what we can show can err on the side of leaning on that to do the storytelling. But I also think, like we were talking about how the scene with the race horses and how, or not really race horses, alien horse thing.
Yeah, the alien horses.
And then, but like how the racetrack was just a circle, just like a normal racetrack, but those animals were capable of climbing up cliffs.
Yeah, like, infuriatingly
it would have
bland.
been so cool if they had created some sort of crazy track, you know? Or...
Yeah, when you think about the original trilogy, and even the prequels, but more the original trilogy, every movie has a location you've never seen that is so interesting. Like, the jungles of Dagobah, the deserts of Tatooine, the ice world of Hoth, the forests of Endor. Like, all these places are so interesting and, like, detailed, and the cantina, I mean, like, the creatures, the characters, and I haven't felt that almost at all in all of the new movies.
I wonder if more now their goal is, like, we need to make this identifiable.
Right.
This is, like, I'm talking from a marketing perspective, identifiable to the most amount of people.
Right.
Yeah.
So that kind of limits the creativity in a way.
Yeah,
and I think that the prequels kind of already broke the trend of showing a completely new, completely realized world in each movie, because they all took place on Coruscant. You know, you saw some of the worlds in every movie. You saw Tatooine in every prequel movie. So it's they've definitely lost something that the originals had, and it is this element of, like, creativity. I think this element of, like, building a new world from scratch. They did it a little bit in Revenge of the Sith, like seeing that world with those, like, crazy mushroom neon glowy things. So cool. The Salt Planet gimmick was really cool, and I think the one moment that really stands out to me as having that creativity was that fight between Luke and Kylo Ren, where you, like, weren't seeing Luke's footsteps.
Yes.
Like, and then...
And the red... that was cool.
Yeah, I did a whole stream about this a while back, and I know I'm repeating myself here, but... Like, the moment where you realize that Luke wasn't actually there, to me, was one of the greatest moments in any Star Wars movie, where I was like, oh my god, they've totally pulled this off.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, why did Luke stop and, like, cut his beard and dye his hair brown before he showed up to fight Kylo Ren? I noticed that his hair was different, but then I realized later that he was projecting the younger version of himself, and that just felt like such a brilliant, subtle choice to me, and... those moments give me hope that Rian Johnson can do something interesting with his next trilogy.
Yeah.
But all that being said, there were too many plot holes.
Yeah, I also think it's interesting. I'm sure in some ways they're weary of doing too much new creativity because of the fear that people won't like it, or they'll think it. But and in some ways the prequels, I do think in terms of creating the worlds and stuff, it was creative, like not the council, whatever, with those, like, floating pods where they're
Senate,
all I liked the Senate. I mean, that one, I had no issue with that. But there was something about in the prequels, all those worlds didn't feel real to me.
Absolutely not. All that CG.
Yeah,
totally.
and in the originals, even though it was something I'd never seen, it still felt like very real.
Totally.
And I think they can still do that.
And I don't know why they're not.
Yeah.
I really don't.
I do think that planet, I think the red planet with the white on top, the salt planet, I thought that was a successful version of that.
Yeah, totally.
But I'd love to see something like that in, you know, as lush as it was before. And I know, again, it's easy to say, I'm sure harder to execute, but
I want them to build more sets, you know? I mean, even when they went back for the special editions and, like, made Cloud City look better, it felt less real.
Yeah.
Because just you will always be able to tell when it's a digital set or not, like, or digital set or like a blue screen background.
What did you think of the planet that Luke was on, or not planet, but the whatever, with all those, like, big-eyed penguin babies?
The place that Luke was living. Yeah.
I
thought it was fine.
Yeah.
I mean, it honestly, like, it's a real place. I mean, that's a real place on Earth, and they didn't do that much to make it alien.
Right.
And I actually found that a little bland also. I liked the location just fine, and I enjoyed watching that, but that also felt like it was lacking a little bit to me.
Yeah.
And I mean, Force Awakens, Jakku looks exactly like Tatooine, you know.
Yeah.
So And I mean, obviously with Rogue One, they just go to the locations from the original trilogy. Although Jeddah was really, really cool. I really like Jeddah.
Yeah, Ghost Boot, you feel like they're being too safe. They need to just go crazy. I kind of agree in some ways. Even though it would be a risk, I think it would be the thing that if people are going to... I think in some ways, the more close it tries to be to the originals, in some aspects, the more you can criticize it because it's never going to be that.
Right.
So...
And they've done that already. With Rogue One and with The Force Awakens, they've retread the original trilogy enough.
Yeah.
It's definitely time to move on.
Yeah.
And what I liked about The Last Jedi is they opened it up for themselves to move on. And Han Solo was definitely not moving on. Han Solo was definitely retreading
I wonder
stuff.
if this will be a signal, because it hasn't done as well
to,
move forward and try something new.
I think it will be.
Yeah.
I mean, they open the door for that, and if they don't walk through that door, I'm gonna be so mad. But that's why I say like bright and colorful and maybe cyberpunk in Episode 9.
Yeah.
Like, I want this new version of the
Blade
Jedi,
Runner, but also
Jedi, Blade Jedi. That would be awesome.
Being safe is taking a risk now. Coulter, what do you mean by that? Do you mean like what do you mean by that? Is that a joke?
Maybe because like they played it safe with Solo and it didn't pay off.
And so that's the risk. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I think that I also wouldn't mind if they slowed down production of Star Wars movies.
Oh,
I think that they're really rushing themselves and it's really causing problems.
Gotta let that anticipation build.
Totally.
Yeah.
I don't mind getting a Star Wars film once a year, but I don't need it. I need it, I'd say every 2 years. Any longer than that and I'm going to be grumpy. But the original trilogy and the prequels were all 3 years apart because those movies take a long time to make.
Yeah.
And I think that rushing themselves has been problematic. I mean, because like Dryden Voss is the perfect example of this, where they had this really cool character in mind that was like very alien looking and played by some guy.
Paul Bettany? Is that his name?
The original guy, Michael.
Oh, the original guy.
Michael something. He's from The Wire. He's a really good actor. I've seen him in other stuff.
Oh yeah. Right.
And he's like a really cool dude that I would have loved to see in this movie. And I love Paul Bettany, but he was not playing like Dryden Voss was originally not a human with weird lines on his face. He was something totally different. And they had to completely reshoot that because the original actor wasn't available for the reshoots with Ron Howard, so they just turned him into a human because I don't know why, but like his den felt kind of like something I'd seen before. All the planets that they were on felt like something I'd seen before. Like, there wasn't really anything in Solo that felt like I hadn't seen it. And even the Kessel Run was... I don't know. They ran into a giant creature just like we've seen before several times. It looked like a giant Rathtar, basically. So, I don't know. I do think that they really need to push the creativity. That was my number one problem with Last Jedi, is that it was, like, retreading and not as creative as I wanted it to be. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Well, yeah. What do you guys think? Are we done? Do we have any more thoughts?
Yeah.
You guys have any more questions?
I feel like we've explored a lot of things. I feel like actually the most interesting topic to me is what they could do next,
Yeah, I agree. Which says a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jabba should have been in Solo. Yeah, I mean, I do feel like they had a lot they had to put in there. Like, Han's got to meet Chewie. Han has to be, like, in the Imperial Navy and then get kicked out and then become a smuggler. Han has to do the Kessel Run. Han has to get the Falcon from Lando. There was a lot that they were covering.
Squeeze in there.
Yeah, it's like everything we knew about Han that happened in his past happened in this movie in this short period of time. I like that they mentioned Jabba, but we didn't see him. I felt like that left it open for the next movie, and I really want them to go to Tatooine and like take a job from Jabba and then end up with his price on his head. That's where this is going.
Yeah.
So I don't mind waiting to see that. Although unfortunately now we might not get to. I mean, maybe instead of doing a sequel to this, they do a Lando movie instead, and we get Alden Ehrenreich back.
Yeah.
And maybe we get Qi'ra back. Maybe we get more Darth Maul.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good.
I think maybe that's a way to go, is to focus on him, because like Donald Glover is exploding right now.
That. Absolutely.
They're probably thinking about it.
They are, yeah.
Right
Kathleen Kennedy has already said that they are definitely considering that.
Wow.
I wouldn't even mind seeing a movie about Qi'ra,
Yeah.
Tell her story and have it be about Qi'ra and Maul. I think that could be super cool. I definitely think there's ways that they can take what they did here and move forward and still kind of tell a sequelized version of Han Solo without making the Han Solo trilogy that I think they wanted to do. Because Alden was signed on for 3 movies. But maybe those aren't going to be, like, solo movies. And I'm cool with that.
That's kind of great.
Yeah.
Like, why don't we go into the history of, you know, I think, I mean, not to make it about this, but I think it's great if we'll go into the history of a female character or a character of color, you know, like, that's a great focus to have.
And I want more directors that are not white men. Every single, I mean, I'm a white man. I don't have anything against white men. Every single Star Wars movie has been written and directed by white men. And sure, Kathleen Kennedy is like in charge of Lucasfilm right now, but I would love to see someone else be in charge. I just new voices, new perspectives. Like Black Panther was such a breath of fresh air in so many ways, and a large part of that was that it was, you know, from a different perspective from what we normally get in blockbuster movies, because white men have had a monopoly on making these, and just putting a different, you know, type of person in charge is going to get you something so different and interesting, and I think that that's going to help breed creativity, and I want to see that.
Yeah,
really, really badly. Lando, Rise to New Hope could be awesome. Yeah, like Lando kind of coming up through the criminal underworld to become a respectable businessman could be a really good movie.
Totally.
I feel like the tone of that movie would be really fun. It would be, it would be a fun summer movie.
And it could just be completely cut throughout with him making Instagram stories.
Yeah.
That'd be great. I would love that.
Be like Captain's Logs.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
That's
like,
awesome.
hey, Casey, what's up, man? Yeah, Lando, like, online dating. I would love that, too.
Oh my gosh, yes.
I want to see
like
Lando...
getting ready for a date.
I want to see Lando hook up with a guy on screen. I want that.
That would be bold for Star Wars. I think that would be great.
I think we should start with an alien man, but played by a human man. You know, I think
not played by an alien man.
Not played... Like Star Trek tried to do this. Hey, go girl, how's it going?
Oh.
Star Trek kind of tried to do this where they had Riker... falling in love with an androgynous character, but it was played by a woman, so it didn't feel very daring.
Right.
But they did tell a really good story about gender identity in that episode, so they at least did something.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah, what do you guys think? Any other thoughts or questions? Gene and I have both seen Deadpool. Excuse me, Photine. I keep forgetting. Sorry.
It's okay.
I'm calling you Gene for years. It's hard. Like, if I ever met Ryukar in real life and found out his real name, it'd be so hard for me to call him anything but Ryukar.
Yeah, interesting.
Solo in the new Trek movie. Yeah, I really liked that. I did a whole podcast about that. Yeah. It's like my favorite episode of a podcast I've ever done.
Yeah.
I talked about my sexuality in it. I thought it was really interesting. If anyone wants to check that out. It's called To Boldly Gay. Just search Jesse Mercury To Boldly Gay and you'll find it.
It's awesome.
And Gene, Photine, sorry. We did a podcast about The Force Awakens when it first came out, which was really fun.
Did we?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we did.
We like drank a whole bottle of wine and talked about The Force Awakens.
Oh, we did. Yeah, we did do that.
There's the memory.
It
was browned out.
We did that. So,
yeah. But yeah, so we both saw Deadpool, which I thought was decent.
But we're not going to spoil it in case.
Good, not great. But you seem to like it. We won't spoil it.
We won't spoil it. Maybe we'll save that one.
Yeah. Yeah, L3 was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was so sad that she didn't... I mean, she did live on in a way, but I would have loved to see her have more of her liberation movement.
L3?
Totally.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
Yeah, that's Phoebe Waller-Bridge who played her, who was rumored to be the next Doctor on Doctor Who, but obviously wasn't.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm excited for that to come.
Yeah, that's coming. I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
We're spoiling every movie. We've spoiled a lot of movies. Yeah, the first Deadpool I thought was better. The second one was good, but I really struggled with the violence. I
do think it was hyper-violent. However,
queasy experience for me.
The tone of it was still enjoyable to me.
Yeah, it was enjoyable, and I wouldn't say don't watch it. I really liked Cable a lot. Yeah, we were talking about how L3 is part of the Falcon now.
Totally, Casey, yeah.
Right, which is cool. Which kind of explains why C-3PO could talk to the Falcon later. Mm-hmm. But it does bring up this person who is a freedom fighter for droid rights is now stuck in a ship and can't speak and is not addressed as sentient anymore, which is for me a little frustrating. But I do feel like maybe she just died and it was just her.
Yeah.
Just her, like we were saying, just her navigational intelligence was brought over.
I guess you can kind of pick what
Incredibles 2. I'm excited for Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. I'm sure it's going to be bad. I'm like sure it's going to be bad. The first trailer looked terrible to me, but I'm still really excited about it.
First trailer,
I love Jurassic World, but I just have a very bad feeling that this one's going to be bad.
Well, you love Jurassic World.
I thought it was great. Oh no, maybe it was Colin Trevorrow that said that thing about the Force being real, not Rian Johnson. I think it was. I read an interview because Colin Trevorrow, who directed and wrote Jurassic World, was going to do episode 9. Hey, what's up, Austin? He calls me Stoner Jeff Goldblum.
Oh, really?
It's pretty, makes me happy.
I like that.
I like it too.
I might start using that.
What was I talking about? Jurassic World, yeah. Yes. Oh, so Colin Trevorrow was going to do episode 9, and he was fired from that, and he was the one, I think, who was talking about how the Force is, like, real to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just milking it. We're kind of done talking, but it's so much fun.
Oh, totally.
What's up, Alex? Like, people are still coming to say hi, so it's always hard to stop streaming.
Yeah. Stop being so engaging, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, is there anything else coming out that we're excited for?
What else is coming out? I feel like it's...
I'm really excited for that new show, Kidding, with Jim Carrey.
Is there any more, movies from the world of Harry Potter coming out? Like, I know they did...
Fantastic Beasts 2 is coming. Crimes of Grindelwald.
Which I'm very excited for. However, I hate Johnny Depp as Grindelwald.
Yeah. I thought that what they did with Colin Farrell and Johnny Depp in the first movie made no sense. Just weird.
Why did they do that?
I don't know why they did that.
Right.
I thought the first Fantastic Beasts was like okay.
But I have to say, the thing I think Fantastic Beasts did really well was the creativity thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And seeing the world of those creatures and like the warping of reality and like that I loved. And that's the kind of thing that like at least visually was very entertaining to me.
Yeah, seeing the world inside of the briefcase was super cool.
I loved that. And I loved even just like the simplicity of the details in that New York apartment with where the sisters lived. And, you know, they're like, it's just, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm a sucker for that kind of thing.
But what it missed for me was, like, why does the story need to be told? And when I go see a movie like this, I really want the movie to explain why it exists. Like, Rogue One was so clear about why it existed. It's like this, like this is what you know about this story, but here are these people who had to die for the story that you knew to happen. And just as telling a story about war and terrorism and doing what's right, even when it's hard, and like building family.
Yeah.
Like not being born into family, but like creating your own family. So much of that movie, and just like sacrifice, you know, that movie is about sacrifice, and it's just so powerful, and it really explained itself.
Yeah.
And Solo, I feel like, kind of explained itself.
Yeah.
But
and for me, it was enough.
Right.
You know, for me, it was enough, but I could see why it wasn't enough for some people.
That's fair. That's fair. And I think with the Fantastic Beasts thing, I think they could have leaned more into the whole preservation of creatures and like I mean, obviously it's kind of an endangered species type of that could have been a message, and like taking care of the world, and I don't know, but again it's like how deep are you gonna get? I don't know.
Yeah, but I just want something simple and clear. Like Black Panther, I think, is my favorite example, where it's like we are all one tribe and we need to take care of each other. That is the message of that movie. Like all of humanity is one tribe and we need to take care of each other.
Absolutely.
It's like, and that's like a powerful message that needs to be told right now. You know, we need that in the world.
Absolutely.
You think we should stop before we spoil more movies?
Oh, sorry.
BMX movie. I don't even know about that.
I don't know about that either.
With wait, who's it? Ludacris. Interesting.
Huh.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, what do you guys think? Should we go on a raid, or should we skip it today? Raiding after a Sci-Fi Sunday always feels a little silly, but good. I don't know. I mean, maybe if like
there's 10 of us.
Maybe if somebody that we know is on.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain what we're doing if we go to a person we don't know.
Right. Absolutely.
Oh, Fig is live. Let's go raid Fig.
Oh, great.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Please hit that like button if you haven't already. Thank you so much to Photine for coming to join us.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, we'll do this again in the future. I've been showing Andi. Maybe we'll like do some older movies. Like, I need to show you Close Encounters or something like that.
I still haven't seen Back to the Future.
Oh, we should do Back to the Future.
It's a terrible crime.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that would be awesome.
We'll do something good.
Yeah, so here's a link to Photine's Twitch.
Yeah.
Check her out. Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Bye.
Okay, let's go on a raid. Here's
Come here,
Fig. Oh, Aiden's on with Fig today. He's a cool dude. Go check him out. Here's the link, #MercuryRaid. And it's Fig's Family Gaming World, if the link doesn't work for you, because sometimes that happens. Yeah, I spelled that right. He's playing Roblox. Oh, the Photine link. This is Photine. That's a link to her Twitch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We're not rating Photine.
No.
We're rating Fig, which is the second link I just put there. All right, thank you guys so much.
Thanks, guys.
Tuesday night doing Breath of the Wild. Wednesday I'm doing Mario Maker, and then I'm out of town after that. So you got to make sure you come, because we won't be able to hang for a bit.
Some time off.
All right, guys. We'll see you very soon. Bye.
Bye.